Well, hey, everyone. Welcome to the pre-show. Barbie D, I see you over there. You're the only one. You're the lone chat roomer at the moment. Welcome to the show. Let's see. Is my sound going? Yes, it is. All right. Then I've got to get our show scheduler recording going. Recordings, schedule, blottity, blottity, blottity. Let's see. In about 3 minutes, the recording starts. All right. And I can start that right now. Boom. There we go. I got to turn that baby down. All right. So how you doing over there? How is everybody? See, make sure I'm not forgetting anything. I'm spacey tonight. Think I'm all set to roll. So, how's it going? Got a quiet room tonight at 2.5 minutes before showtime. So, we're just getting ready to roll. Ellie, are you all set? Did you find your tuner? Is my phone working? Why do you have my phone? There's no battery left. It's going to die. Well, I'm sorry. Go find your remote.
I don't know where.
It's not out here. If you go in there, I'm pretty sure you'll find it.
I looked in my room.
I know. I wish I could help you.
Nowhere. This is why I never let Rowan clean my room by herself.
Okay, that's probably a good policy then. Mom made her stay home from a little outing they all went on because she was being a turd. So now she's hates life and everybody hates me. So Ellie, I'm going to start my show in a minute, so I need you to not do that. All right? What's going on with my service? That's weird. All right. Okay, we got a few seconds, and we're going to roll. So we're going to go dark. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hire my dad, so he can take me to Disneyland.
You're listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Well, happy Thursday evening, folks. This is Scotty Roberts. Welcome to the program. This is the Intrepid radio program right here on Odyssey Radio. You can go over to Odyssey Radio at ODYSYradio.com to hear this show in its audio format. You can also come on over to two different places to see the simulcast in video. And that's at Facebook at facebook.com/Odyssey Radio. And also over to my own personal YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. While you're there, hit the thumbs up button if you haven't already, and subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and also hit the join button. And you can join and become an actual live, fantastic, genuine member of my channel. And that's all. So thank you. Thanks for being here. Have a good night. Felt like I was signing off for a minute there. Welcome to everybody who's in the chat room. And as people start to gather, and I appreciate your presence over there. And everybody, of course, listening on the airwaves, I appreciate you being here. And how was your day today? It's Thursday evening. It's a summer evening. The kids are out playing. I don't know if you can hear that, if you can see it, if you're sitting on my channel, you can, I can turn this a little bit. You can even see there, you can actually see the outside of my studio window there. And there are children outside playing, not my kids. My kids all went somewhere with mom, except the little one who got in trouble and had to stay home. And is mad at life, and life hates her, and she hates it. And so hopefully we don't have any outbursts that are out of my control during the show from the small one. But if your day is anything like that, it's a nice summer night here. It's one of those summer nights you think of when you were a kid, or that you look at in the movies or read about in books. It's that perfect temperate weather. No clouds in the sky, as far as I can tell. Well, very few. And the sun's just going down, and it's warm, and kids are out still playing in yards. It's got an almost 1950s feel about the evening this evening, other than this radio show and the technology I'm using to get on air. So Barbie D in the chat room said she had a great evening. Tonight, there's Nell Parkinson from Ireland has come in, and Master Finn, we like to call him. And Niall Parkinson asks, Marcus Aurelius 6? I thought we would have been on Big Boobs and Lovely Asses Part 1 by now. Sheesh. Well, yeah, we're still on Marcus Aurelius. And we're only at 6 because we had a couple of days that we missed last week. So there you go, Niall. Sorry to disappoint. If you'd have been here every night, you wouldn't be surprised by number 6. So your evening was thankful. He says, I spoke to at least one person where we enjoyed and respected every word. That's fantastic. That's a nice evening to have, and a nice kind of conversation to have. So I know you were joking, Niall. He had to put in that caveat. I was joking. Yeah, I knew it, brother. I appreciate the fact that you're here, and everybody else. And so without too much further toying around with and by the way, my presence of mind is like way out here tonight for some reason. I'm just like a little I'm not spacey. Maybe I am spacey. Maybe that's what you'd call it. I feel detached from my brain tonight. And so everything I was doing, I sat here staring at things a half an hour ago, getting set up for the show. And it was like an out-of-body experience without having an out-of-body experience. And so I'm a little spacey, so you'll have to hopefully see how many errors you can catch in my language tonight. And hopefully, well, my mic's up, my recording's going for the audio for tomorrow, for the archives. Everything seems to be going smoothly. So let's knock on wood and move forward. So I ate no gummy bears, Iowa X. I did not. I do have, I was sent home with some of those from my friend Andy, but no, I did not eat any. I know so much better than to do that before a radio show. So tomorrow night, my daughters come into town from another part of the country, and they'll be here probably for a little bit of the Captain's Corner by the time they arrive. I think Uncle Dave is going to be here tomorrow night, here, present, in the studio. And so he'll join me for the Captain's Cabin tomorrow night. And for those of you going, what's this Captain's Cabin thing? Well, that's what we do after the show. We stick around after we go off air over on the radio station at Odyssey Radio. And we stick around here in the chat room and on the video simulcast, and we have ourselves a little after show. And you all, the listeners, have dubbed it the Captain's Cabin. So Antonino G. I can't ever say your name right. Antoninus. I always want to say Antoninus from Spartacus. But Tony Curtis playing an ancient Roman, Antoninus. And so Antonino. You get the Nino at the end. So Antonino G. I had that to say. So good to have you here. And he spelled it again. Antonino. And what syllable is the emphasis on? Antonino. Is it on the an? An is the syllable of emphasis. Antonino. Or is it Antonino? Or is it Antonino? Or is it Antonino? Antonino sounds good. Antonino. That's how I grew up. My mother always yelled, Antonino. So, Sicilian. Oh, hey. Yeah. Fat Tony should very much like that you not make fun of Antonino's name. So there we go. All right. Sicilian, Latin. Hi, he says. All right, folks, let's move on. Let's get into a little bit of, he wasn't Sicilian, but he was Italian. Marcus Aurelius. I'm just trying to think. I'm thinking that I'm missing some announcement. I'm sure it'll come to me in the middle of something else, and I'll just have to blurt it out at some point and lose my train of thought or shift to some tributary off the main river again. You just call him Anton. There it is. Hey, Anton. Tony. Do you ever go by Tony? Or is that a big no-no with Antonino? Antonino. There we go. I've wasted enough airtime trying to pronounce your name right. Steve Clark, welcome to the show over there, by the way, in the chat room, and everybody else. And let's move on. We're in the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, and I think we left off at a very interesting place. And I put as the title for tonight's show something that we had. It was kind of the subtitle of tonight's show, something that Marcus Aurelius had said he was thankful to the gods for. Now, he didn't say thankful. This is in the first part of his collection of works called Debts and Lessons. And in his Debts and Lessons, he is listing the things that he is indebted to the gods for. And one of the things he was indebted to the gods for, he said that I wasn't raised by my grandfather's girlfriend for longer than I was. And I thought that was really interesting. Now, his grandfather's girlfriend, I don't know who she was off the top of my head. I have no history lesson in front of me for that one. But I just thought that was something very interesting. Remember, he came from, Marcus Aurelius, from an aristocratic family, a family who was in power, an empirical family, so to speak. His grandfather was Hadrian, I do believe, if I'm not messing that up. And so his grandfather's girlfriend, he says, I'm really glad I wasn't raised by her for very long. That could almost smack of modern, the way he talks about it, because we think about that nowadays. Families are so screwed up nowadays. And there's so many different people that same thing was going on 2,000 years ago. But also remember what was going on in 2,000 years ago that I just kind of made fun of as being a lot like the screwed up kind of families we have in our country today, at least in America or the West. Remember, Marcus Aurelius lived in a time that was the prelude to the downfall of Rome, the decline of Rome. And they say Rome fell apart from the inside. Maybe that's part of it. The families started falling apart, and it was very evident in a very small cog in the family of Marcus Aurelius. So even though he was an empirical family. So Niall never had time for Aurelius. He was a product of decadence. None of his ramblings have any moral standing. I don't know why you'd say that. Have you read through the Meditations already? I think that there's an awful lot of good things in the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. It's an interesting point you make, Niall, but it sparks a little conversation in my mind to say that just because he was an emperor of Rome doesn't mean he was decadent. Because wasn't he one that was striving to do better, always striving to better himself? He's called the philosopher king because he spent so much time in his early part of his life in philosophy and stoicism. And he wanted to be something better and do something better. So I personally don't see him as a product of, well, maybe a product of decadence. I don't think he was an immoral man, though. Although by the works that he's written in the Meditations, you definitely see him as a man that has struggled with perhaps what he believes his moral character. And because there was always something that he was writing about to remind himself. Remember, one of the other names for the Meditations, the interpretation could have been to himself, to himself. These are all the writings to himself. They're like his reminders, his journals, without necessarily being dire things that he kept constantly reminding himself of, which I think is something we all need to do to a certain extent, is always remind ourselves who we are, what we're all about, what we should be, where we should be, striving to be better and do better. And it's like it's thinking, Mufasa from The Lion King. Remember who you are, he says to Simba. And so, I think that's maybe a bit of what Marcus Aurelius is doing. Now, you could go through the whole life of Marcus Aurelius in history, and you could look at things about him and about his rule, his reign, and the things that he did. And you could pull that apart and say, well, he was definitely moral here, not immoral there, or not moral there. But I think the Meditations and the survival of the Meditations in the format that they're in kind of shows somebody who strove to not be part of the decadence, perhaps, that he was raised in. Antonino says, a decade of decadence. The Roaring 20s, says Iowa X. Niall says, what I mean to say that his strivings, as you put it, were easy for him to mimic. I believe he showed his writings to many others. We have no evidence that he did not. Well, that's awfully cynical, though. That's to say, well, he just wrote this stuff so he could show it off to somebody else. Look at what I wrote. Look at my philosophies. Is that what he did? Or did he live a life that was, what would you point to historically, Niall, especially over in the chat room? What would you point to that would lead you to believe that perhaps his meditations were all phony, that it was just so he could show other people what he could do? That's a cynical point of view, but I'd be interested to know. Doesn't mean it's an invalid point of view. It's a point of view. I'd love to know what you're thinking with that. So the Roman Empire, right? Well, Ireland, the United States, Germany, Ghana. We all grew up somewhere. We all lived somewhere. He happened to be part of an aristocratic family, and he ended up being a co-emperor at the beginning, then the sole emperor. And he didn't off his co-regent. He died. And so it's an interesting thing to look into to find out Roman Empire. Did everybody who lived in the Roman Empire then was decadent? Or I did make mention just a few minutes ago, the Roman Empire fell. And he's coming up at a time where you've got kind of the beginning of the fall of the Roman Empire at around the time in the 160s to the 180s that Marcus Aurelius was on the throne. And he strived to be a better man, was what his meditations seem to indicate. So either they're all fake and he was doing it as a, this is just a, I'm practicing philosophy. And what do you think? Or there was something more to it. The Roman Empire stole everything from everyone else and adopted it. It's logical that he was part of that machine. Well, remember, the Roman Empire had existed for centuries prior to his birth. I don't think so, necessarily. I think he was ruling over an empire. We'd have to break into the history of Marcus Aurelius a little deeper. We did a little kind of a touching on it very lightly at the beginning of this series. But we'd have to dig into him and find out what he did. What were his actions? What did he believe? What was his ruling philosophy? That might be worth looking into. I give you homework, Niall. Come back next time and present your work on Marcus Aurelius and what he did and what he strove to do with the empire. What kind of a ruler was he? Might be really worth looking into. Caligula was an interesting whack job. That's right, Antonino. That's Caligula was wildly whack. I guess there's no better way to put that. Sane, although they do think there was a certain point where he had suffered from some kind of poisoning, lead poisoning of some kind or something, and that he emerged from that a very different person. He had almost died. Alec Guinness says Antonino did an okay job playing Marcus Aurelius in the fall of the Roman Empire. Yeah, he was like a robed, Kenobi was robed too, but when he played Obi-Wan Kenobi, I remember I could see him playing Marcus Aurelius. I saw that movie a very long time ago. But Alec Guinness, never was there a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. Rome. Or Los Isley. So anyway, we left off last night. We were talking about Marcus Aurelius in the Meditations, his section of the books that's entitled Debts and Lessons. He was talking about the debts and the lessons that he learned from all these different people in his life. And all these from relatives to friends and so on. And we left off with his indebtedness to the gods was the last thing he entered in this section. And he said, and so I'm going to recap just a little bit from last night because we only got about halfway through that one. But he said, to the gods, he's writing this. What is he indebted to the gods for? He says that I had good grandparents, a good mother and a father, a good sister, good teachers, good servants, good relatives, friends almost without exception, and that I never lost control of myself with any of them, although I had it in me to do that. And I might have easily, but thanks to the gods, I was never put in that position and so escaped the test. So he does talk about and recognizes the fact that there are certain things that seem to be testings in our lives. And I have a question about that. If we believe that there is a God or gods out there that put us to the test. Why do they put us to the test? Why is that there? Why does somebody like when we were talking, I don't know if it was here, we were talking about the book of Job, or in the captain's cabin, or somewhere online, or some other conversation I had. We were talking about the book of Job being the oldest book, chronologically speaking, in the biblical texts, and how that Job reflects a more ancient proto-religion, so to speak. There wasn't Judaism yet. Judaism did not exist until it was codified under Moses in around 1400 BCE. And that the book of Job pre-existed that by perhaps even 1,000 years. And that pre-existence of Job, there are telltale things in the story of Job that says you can point to other proto-religions that existed pre-Judaism. And so in that you've got the God, Elohim, who is approached in heaven by the Satan, with the article in front of his name. And the Satan accuses Job, it says, or offers a test. And it looks just like the Olympian gods that would play a sort of chess with the lives of humans, put them to the test and play games with their lives. And this is kind of what it looks like in the book of Job, that God did with Job. He took everything he had and made him sick and all of this stuff to test his faithfulness. And it always seemed that the ancient gods had this way of doing this. Do those gods exist today? Do they still do that? Would they still do that the same way today? I'm going to make you sick to see if you really stay faithful to me. Isn't there a better way? Isn't there a more open way for a God to communicate with his creation? If God created everything from nothingness, why wouldn't he find a better way to communicate and be loyal? My wife doesn't have to put me to the test to see that I'll be loyal to her. Here, let me throw all these temptations in your way. Oh, and if you give in, you aren't loyal to me. But I'm going to create the test. I'm going to create the temptation that might draw you off the mark. And so, anyway, this is what I think of when I think of Marcus Aurelius, even writing about the gods at all. He had some belief in the gods. So, but most Romans did. Whether it was an earnest belief, a faith level belief, or a practical belief in the gods, Romans believed in the gods. They all had house gods. They all had chamber pot gods. They had gods for the garden, gods for this, God for that. So it's interesting that, and that's why I made part of the analogy with the book of Job, is that you had Satan, the Satan it calls him in the book of Job. The Satan came in to the courts of heaven and accused Job before God. So it's an interesting thing. And God said, sure, I'll take that bet. Let's see what we can do. Let's just mess around with Job, and I'll bet you that he stays faithful to me. And the Satan was like, you're on. Let's do it. So did the Satan back then, did the other gods or demigods or whatever they were not recognize that Elohim, God, very God, God Almighty, was much more powerful than them, omnipresent, omniscient, all-knowing, all everything? If they knew that about him, why would they go to him and even want to put Job to the test? And if God said, Job will stay faithful to me, watch, the Satan should have gone, okay, well, you're God, I guess we don't have to do this thing. So it's interesting. And when you think of the stories that are passed on to us, it makes you wonder, what's really true? Anyway, let's move on. That's a different topic. So Marcus Aurelius, he goes on in talking about his indebtedness to the gods, that I wasn't raised by my grandfather's girlfriend for longer than I was. We kind of opened with that a little bit. That's an interesting thing to say for an aristocrat. I'm glad my grandfather's girlfriend didn't raise me any longer than she did. So that'd be interesting. That I didn't lose my virginity too early, Marcus Aurelius says, and didn't enter adulthood until it was time. Put it off even, he said. I don't know what was the enmarking of his entering into adulthood, but he said, I'm grateful to the gods that I didn't enter adulthood until it was time, and I even put it off some. How do you put off becoming an adult? It's probably the maturity level, the things that you do. Was there a ritual? Were there certain things he had to enter into and actually start performing? He was an aristocrat, so maybe he didn't have to do many things prior to that, or he got to stick himself in school and he stuck to his philosophical work before he took on the responsibility of being an adult. Maybe that's what he means. Niall says his writings seem stolen in some way. The Gnostics were onto this way before he was, probably back to the myths of John the Baptist. Well, I think now what you have is, remember, if it seems like they were stolen or that the Gnostics were onto it much earlier, Marcus Aurelius he had gone to school to be a philosopher. He was a Stoic. He was repeating philosophy that had been written long before he was. And these are his own thoughts in trying to practice it. When I was in Christian ministry, Christian school and Christian ministry, I remember I kept a journal that would have looked an awful lot like the journals of other Christians 300-400 years ago, just with updated language. And somebody said, well, you just copied the journals of, I don't know who, Reverend blah from Ireland in the 1500s. Well, maybe I just thought a lot like he did. We were both Christian. We both wanted to follow Christian pursuits. We both wanted to emulate lives that looked like Christian philosophy and Christian. Maybe that's what it was, Niall. His writings look like the other stuff because he was part of that school of thought. And he was trying to emulate that. He was working on emulating that. Not defending Marcus Aurelius. I'm just saying I think historically that'd probably be the best way to look at it, is that he didn't copy something. I think he's this is what he wanted his life to be. Even the Apostle Paul, and I mentioned this the other day when we started this series, he wrote in the New Testament, he says, all the things that I don't want to do, I find myself constantly doing them. And all the things I want to do, I find myself not doing them. And he was talking about a philosophy of living a Christian life. The things that I don't want to do, that are worldly, and the things that Christians ought not to be doing, I find I'm constantly tempted into living that lifestyle. And he said, but all the things that I should be wanting to do as a Christian, I find I'm not doing them very well. And so he says, I see a war in my members, and I'm constantly fighting myself to strive to be what I want to be. Perhaps this is where Marcus Aurelius was. It's just a speculation. Niall says, my point exactly. I had no natural inclination for this. I seem to read a parroting of writings which he felt would impress his own ego. Well, why would he have if he had no natural inclination, why is he even writing about it? Is my point. I think he had a natural inclination to be something that he wanted to be. But his position in life, perhaps in culture, his society, where he was raised, what he was destined to do, maybe pulled him in another direction. So, and he had to work on his philosophy. I don't see. I'm not imbued with the same cynicism you have over there in the chat room, Niall. Just for the radio listeners, you know who I'm talking to. Niall's not like my imaginary friend over here. Well, Niall, please stop talking to me that way. I'm doing radio. What was that? Oh, yes, I'm still on radio. No, Niall's a real guy. He's in Ireland. He's over in the chat room. for those of you not in the chat room and listening. So let's move on. Marcus Aurelius says that he is indebted to the gods because he had someone as a ruler and as a father who could keep me from being arrogant and make me realize that even at court you can live without a troop of bodyguards. You can live without gorgeous clothes or lamps or sculptures, the whole charade, that you could behave almost like an ordinary person without seeming slovenly or careless as a ruler or when carrying out official obligations. So he's pretty much saying, you know, I could dress in my t-shirt and my shorts as the emperor. Didn't matter. I didn't have to dress opulently. I could wear my scrubs to the throne room, you know, as long as I wasn't slovenly and careless. I didn't need all the trappings, in other words. Yeah, I'm sure there were days that Marcus Aurelius, threw on his AC/DC t-shirt and his flip-flops and walked around the marbled floors of the palace and said, I took a bath today. I'm okay. I'm good. I'm good. AC/DC. And that I had the kind of brother that I did, he says. I'm thankful. One whose character challenged me to improve my own character. This is the brother who became the co-regent with him. This is my brother challenged me to improve my own character. One whose love and affection enriched my life. That my children weren't born stupid or physically deformed. We kind of left off right around there last night. I got a good laugh about that because of the way things are said. He said, I'm thankful and I'm indebted to the gods that my kids weren't born stupid. I don't know. I haven't heard from my child who's here alone with me tonight. So why did that make me think of that? Because she was all upset and whining earlier in the evening when I started the the radio show. Mom and all the kids and grandma went off to do something. Pick rocks, I think. They went to pick rocks or something. And they should be home soon because the sun's down now. But the littlest one, as you all know her, those of you who watch the show with any regularity, know the kind of force of nature my 7-year-old girl can be. And she came bounding in, slamming the door and screaming that she hates my life. Mom hates me. I hate Mom. Why? Was she frothing at the mouth so? Because she did something wrong and Mom kicked her out of the car. You can stay home with Dad. And then Mom took off with the rest of the kids and Grandma because the little one was being naughty. And those of you who know my family fairly well would go, no, say it isn't so. Your youngest daughter, naughty. But she's relatively quiet right now. And I don't hear a television on over in her bedroom. So I have a feeling she may have either fallen asleep or she's actually reading her books. Glory of glories. So there you go. So he says, he goes on, Marcus Aurelius, I'm thankful that my children weren't born stupid or physically deformed. That I wasn't more talented in rhetoric or poetry or other areas. He's indebted to the gods that he didn't have talent in those areas. If I'd felt that I was making better progress, I might never have given them up. He felt that he wasn't making good progress, so he let them be. Gave them up and moved into his political stuff. I'm indebted to the gods that I conferred on the people who brought me up on the honors they seemed to want early on, instead of putting them off since they were still young, with the hope that I'd do it later. Let's see, let me read that again. I'm indebted that I conferred on the people who brought me up the honors they seemed to want early on. There you go. Instead of putting that off since they were still young, with the hope that I'd do it later. He's thankful that he knew Apollonius and Rusticus and Maximus, three of his friends that were in this same indebtedness to life. He was his debts and lessons. He's thankful that he knew them. He's thankful to the gods that he knew them. He says that I was shown clearly and often what it would be like to live as nature requires. The gods did all they could through their gifts, their help, their inspiration, to ensure that I could live as nature demands. And if I failed, it's no one's fault but my own. Because I didn't pay attention to what they told me, to what they taught me, practically, step by step, that my body has held out, especially considering the kind of life I've led. Pardon my dog barking. That's just the annoyance of the small animal in the home. He says that I never laid a finger on Benedicta or on Theodotus. Now, I don't know what those situations were. He says, I never laid a finger on them, and I'm indebted to the gods for really putting me in that position. And that even later, when I was overcome by passion, I recovered from it. That even though I was often upset with Rusticus, I never did anything I would have regretted later. And that even though she died young, at least my mother spent her last years with me. It's indebted to the gods for that. And I'm sorry, folks, the door to my studio is open. And the dog is making her rounds, barking from this door down here, which leads to the backyard, running up to the door upstairs, which leads to the front yard. And that dog is going back and forth because barking at everything. And I'm pretty soon, I may just get up and shut that door. Even we're during the radio broadcast here, I think I will do that. So hang on. I'm walking away from my mic and shutting this particular door so we don't have the annoyance of the dog coming in and barking. That's because I'm not sitting in a big-time studio, folks, with employees or servants or anybody like that, or assistants. So who's coming in my door? Hello? Somebody just opened my door and I don't see anybody. The door I just closed. So that's interesting. So he says that whenever I felt like helping someone who was short of money or otherwise in need, I never had to be told that I had no resources to do it with. So I'm thankful that I was put in that position in life. When I wanted to give, I had the ability to give. Hold on, folks. I'm going to stand up one more time and shut this door again because all that sound is coming down onto the mic. So, sorry about that. At least I think it's coming down on the mic. That was the small child. Keep that door shut, please.
We were locked out.
Well, I'm sorry. So, at least you have a garage door opener in the car to have come in through the garage. All right, you can be quiet now. All right, I'm on the radio. So, see, nobody gives a flying fuck around here when I do the radio show. There's my outburst for the day, guys. Nobody, they'll come pounding on the door, knowing I'm the only one here on the radio because the small one's supposed to be in bed. Well, she jumped up and went and run. They apparently locked themselves out. So pardon my outburst, but I don't like the disrespect sometimes that is given to this radio show by the people in my household. So there you go. That's what we got. That's what I'm working with. Sorry out there. Sorry, Ron, for using the Effenheimer and throwing it out so freely. I get really frustrated by some of this little stuff sometimes. And so I have 1 hour a day. And out of that hour, we only go from 4.5 minutes after the hour to 6.5, 3.5 minutes before the end of the hour. This is roughly 52 to 53 minutes. Nothing. You didn't miss anything, Brianna. Not much. This was just a momentary outburst that started a minute ago. So I've got that short period of time every day where I say, everybody, and how many years have we been doing this now? Everybody, during this radio show period of time, can we please respect the fact that that door needs to remain shut, that people need to not come and interrupt, and that now, some of it we've grown used to. I have my family that shut that door, please. And so you don't need to even open your mouth and say anything back to me. You just need to do it. Thank you. I'm tired of kids that mouthiness. I want to thank the gods. I'm indebted to the gods for giving me mouthy children, so I have to learn how to develop my patience more. And now, yes, there are guys that said that 2,000 years ago, but that's also the position I'm in life. I get so frustrated with the mouthiness. I've never experienced the kind of mouthiness, talking backativeness, and all of that I have with the current children I have. They're all mouthy. And do you know what I attribute that to? Now, I've gotten way off of Marcus Aurelius, but do you know what I attribute that to? I attribute that to all the bullshit that comes in through their phones, through their devices, through YouTube, through TikTok, through all the bullshit that we keep restricting and that they keep finding ways to get around and doing anyway. So they lose their devices, they lose their privilege, they lose this, they lose that and the other thing. But it continues all the time. And so I've got children that talk to Rainey and I like we're some kind of idiot in the hallway at school in the locker they like to slam into. It's like, excuse me, I'm not some stupid rube in the hallway at school. You talk to me that way, or you talk to your mother that way, and you will have some trouble, and you will have consequences to deal with. And sometimes it pisses the shit out of me. It's like, close the door. I don't need a diatribe when I'm on the radio talking to a bunch of other people. And I probably don't need to do this on radio either, do I? This is a moment. There you go. It's the genuine me. This is who I really am. You know, when I'm not on radio, I'm yelling at my kids. I get so frustrated with that. I get frustrated with the absolute, and it's not like I've had kids grow up before. I got 3 adult kids. Just, I don't remember the level of disrespect is different. My kids I have now, the level of disrespect it's so discordant and it's so off the scale compared to what I grew up doing, compared to my kids that grew up and went out of the house that are, in a half a generation ahead of them, 10 years or so, or something like that. Difference. My oldest daughters are 30. My youngest is 7. So you can do the math there. That's a 23-year difference. But what bothers me is that in that short period of time, I have seen the advent of certain things that kids are exposed to at school, on radio, on TV. Not so much radio, but there's no radio for kids anymore. Kids don't listen to the radio. They listen to their iTunes. They listen to internet and all of those things. And I got to tell you, there are things that I see that I used to listen to adults say, oh, television, that's so corrupting to young people. Oh, rock music is so corrupting to young people. All the things I grew up with in the 70s, And now I look at it and I go, you know what? There's some truth to that. There are things my kids watch, and I listen to the things they're watching. And I said to Rainey, that's exactly how they talk to us. That's where they're getting that. And it's innocent shows, innocent, quote unquote. The Nickelodeon shows, the Disney shows for kids and stuff like that. This is a brainwashing. This is a slow but sure. And is it really a brainwashing, or is it that generation each generation gets a little more permissive and they allow more things? And, the writers of my era for these television shows are different than the writers of the Gen Xers or different than the writers who come out of the millennials. They all have different values and standards or how they want to write these shows. Bullying has been banned in school so they can end up adults and at real risk. There you go. There it is. We had to fight bullies when I was a kid. Remember, I had a bully, a kid that bullied me. I don't know why. Probably because I was a dweeb when I was in school. Now, I'm talking ninth grade. I remember this. So this would be the end of middle school. He sat behind me in science class and always did shit. Bugged me, poked me, threw things at me, and laughing with the kid that's sitting next to him at the lab table and in the hallways, pushed me, shoved me, did the stupid stuff, knocked my books out of my hand. Nowadays, you go, ooh, you got a small penis or what? But he did all the bullying stuff, and he would flick my ears from behind me and like, knock it off. And stuff like that. And I was not a fighter in ninth grade. I was not a strong personality. I was a geeky art Star Trek-y type of kid. I was a nerd. And this guy picked on me. I remember him. He was a stocky, ruddy complected kid with blonde curly hair in that 70s style. So it wasn't really a fro because he wasn't a bro, but it was blonde curly. And so he would pick on me all the time. And there was one day he made sure that I was one of the last ones to get out of the classroom, the science room. And he's standing in the doorway and he's challenging me to get through the doorway. And he's pushing on me and stuff. For what? There wasn't it's tribalism. It's all that stuff. We all know psychologically what that stuff is nowadays. But he was acting that way. And so finally, I was so sick of it and so fed up, I hauled off and I punched him in the mouth. And because he kept pushing me. And I'm like, just let me go through the door. Kept pushing me. Pop! I popped him in the mouth. He popped me back in the mouth. We both had bloody lips. And then he in anger turned around and walked away. And I walked away. And after that, he never picked on me again, though. Because, I don't know, I'd have probably lost a fight with him because I wasn't a fighter at that point in my life and I didn't know what to do. But he realized at least I could punch him in the mouth for being a bully. So there you go, Iowa X. Yeah. Yeah. How old do you turn around and punched him? Yeah, let's see. When I was in ninth grade, I was a year younger than most of my class. So in ninth grade, I was 12 to 13 years old. This is the age of my son, Flynn, right now. And so, I bet he never picked on you again. He never did. As a matter of fact, there were times he would pass me in the hallway. I remember this, and I remember thinking about it at the time. Passing him in the hallway, and he goes, "Hey, Scotty." I go, "Hey, man." And I didn't remember his name. And I go, "Hey." And I remember at the time thinking, he just said hi to me. So I don't think I have much to worry about from him anymore. And it dawned on me that you don't put up with the bullying. You show them that much strength and they're done. So anyway, all of that came out. Now we're down to less than 2 minutes away. It came out because I got pissed that my daughter's mouthing off to me. So that's why we went on that rabbit trail. Folks, if you want to stick around for after the show, we'll talk about more of this kind of stuff. Sorry we didn't finish the meditation tonight, where we were only on still the last one, where he was thanking the gods for things. And then tomorrow we're going to go into other areas. We still got a full minute left. So tomorrow I'm just going to tell you, in my notes here, we get into On the River Gran, Among the Quadi is his next book. And in his meditations. So we'll dig into that tomorrow night, Friday night. And then my daughters will be here. We'll probably get them on during the captain's cabin tomorrow night, my older daughters. So, folks, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go out like we do every night in about 30 seconds. And all of you who would like to stick around over in the chat room, over on the YouTube channel, and because we'll come back with the Captain's Cabin. And so I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank you for giving me your time, for being here, and I enjoyed having you here. So let's move on for tonight. So live long and prosper.
You're listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
All right, folks, we're back for the Captain's Cabin. I want to thank you for sticking around. And I've got to disconnect this here because I've got my God voice on. I've got to disconnect this so we don't get that feedback. Oh, it already did it automatically. It drops me off of the stream. That's interesting that it would do that. I set a timer for the show, and it automatically drops me off of there now. How about that? So, here we are. Welcome back. Sorry for my outbursts. I don't lose my temper a lot. I have found that as I have gotten perhaps a little older, or the fact that this set of 3 children of mine are very different from this first set of children of mine, set of 3. And they have different things that influence them and different ways that they act. And it pisses me off sometimes. And you saw it tonight, and I apologize to my audience for that, for losing my shit, because it pisses me off. Especially Rowan. Rowan is only 10, but Rowan thinks that she needs to act like she's 16 or 17, because that's what she watches and that's what she soaks in. And, there's an upside to that. She's very bright. She's very cool. She's very creative. She's a fun person. But there's times where I shut her down because I don't need that. I don't need a 10-year-old talking to me as if they're a 30-year-old that is my familiar. That's going to stop right now. And it's not that we don't have our moments where it's enjoyable. It's that, hey, if me, your dad, tells you, hey, you got to go do this thing, or you got to be there, you got to have this go. That doesn't mean you get to mouth off to me like you're a 30-year-old. So that's my thing. That's the thing that bothers me. And you can't reach over and crack them in the mouth. I can't do that to a girl, my little girl. Are you kidding me? I wouldn't do that. I'd thwack my son upside the head. At 12 years old, I wouldn't hit my 10-year-old for mouthing off. Although there are times you want to. Tell me that you all don't experience that. There's times you go, God damn it. Child, if you were a little older, I'd have already smacked you in the mouth. That's the way it is. It's like, how dare you talk to your mom that way? Or how dare you talk to me that way? Those kinds of things. So, hey, Rainey. We're just talking about my outburst at Rowan during the show. So, and so anyway, that's the way that goes. I don't like it when my children feel they can be as familiar with me as they are, as if they were a 30-year-old. It's like, excuse me, you will not be talking to me that way. And Brianna said, I got my ass handed to me in first grade by a kid in my class and his older sister. He held me against the playground while his sister beat me to a bloody pulp. And the teachers didn't do anything. Where'd you go to school? Well, you lived out in the country, right? Country school. Maybe they were like, hey, you better learn to fight there, Brianna. you're going to get your ass handed to you again in second grade. First graders beating people to a pulp. What the hell is with that? So, where do we learn that shit? I wasn't that kind of kid. I wanted to get along with everybody. I had a fun time. It wasn't until I learned that I had to be tough and punch the bully in the mouth in 9th grade that I changed my ways. Is that part of growing up? Is that all we have to do? We all have to become hardened so we can all be shitheads to each other? And that's the only way life works? You got to be a shithead back to somebody for being a shithead to you? Because I can tell you what, when you're an adult and the bully comes to you, you can't go, well, let's look at the psychological ramifications of this now, shall we? No, you get your ass handed to you. So you got to learn to be violent in order to not be. Oh, it was Somerset Schools, Brianna says. Right here. Same school my kids go to. So, so why is that? Why is humanity and human life mean we have to grow up and be violent people toward each other in order to prevent from being dealt with violently? Who started that ball rolling? Is it just who we are? Is life Lord of the Flies? Any of you have to read that in school like I did in 9th grade? I had to read that for school. It was required reading. Same year I learned that I had to read To Kill a Mockingbird. Those were all required books for us that time. Lord of the Flies. Race Hobbs. I stand shoulder to shoulder with you. You're a really good dad. And all your children that are grown have matured to know this. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that, Race. It's a little embarrassing that I had the outburst I had because, especially on air, I was glad I didn't go harsher than I did. So that bothers me. It's like after a while, there are things that my children will do that are very reflective of our society, our decadent society around us, that really anger me, that I cannot do anything to parent those things out of my kids. Neither can my wife. We have to endure it and put up with it. It's things that have been so ingrained in them. And not by us. We're not exposing them to that stuff. Scotty, read the 4th comment down from my first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see. Your first one was what? 1, 2. Looking for Brianna. Was it that since that day comment and 4 down from that? No. Was it? Damn it, just copy it and repaste it. Oops, sorry. Expelled from school, not suspended. That one? Then my aunt picked me up from a school and almost had a broken nose, eye socket, and cheekbone, to say the least. After my aunt showed up, the principal ended up suspending both the kids. Well, that's good. Is that the one you mean? After I got my ass handed to me in the 1st grade? And that's 4 down. So, yikes.
Get off.
So,
Down.
you got the cat on your desk.
I know, and he's climbing over the paper.
That's one time. I told you about this a couple of weeks ago. One time, Rainey has the big old fat black cat, Oscar, crawled up on her desk, and she's petting him, and she was brushing his fur out, and he was in cat heaven for about a half an hour there. Now, she only did that one time. Now, she can't keep him off her desk. Every day, he's up there trying to... So, yes, says Brianna. So, thank you, Race, again, by the way. I appreciate that. Very touching, too. We try. We all try. Rainey tries. We do our best. How can our little kids, our sweet little innocent kids, have turned into the people that they turn into. It's because they're becoming real people. But it seems to me that this whole thing of developing into a mature adult means you also have to become a violent or a mean or a forceful adult. You have to have what's the word I'm looking for maturity and character and all of those things. You have to have strength. You have to have confidence. You have to grow up with confidence. I agree with that. I want my kids to be confident. My son Flynn was very lacking in confidence as a kid. He was shy and things like that. And I wanted to keep bringing that out. Come on, be a little more forward, son. Put your chest out, roll your shoulders back, and, act like this is my world. I don't need to be afraid of anybody in it. I'm not talking about the fear of destruction or anything, but, I won't be brought under the power of any. And but be good with it. Wield your strength. Your powers should be used for good. Type of thing. But young humans are savages, says Iowa X. Infant try Lord of the Flies is spot on. Infant try Lord of the Flies is spot on. Yeah, I was just talking about Lord of the Flies a few seconds ago. That is spot on. Lord of the Flies, guys, if you've never read the book, I grew up having to read the book for school and watching the old movie, the movie that was made in the 60s, black and white, of these kids that their plane crashes, makes an ocean landing, and they're stranded on an island. All these school kids, British school kids, and they immediately form into tribes. They follow this guy, the tough guy who's the bully, or the tough guy, and the guy over here who's the good thinker, and the so on and so on and so on. Yeah, we read To Kill a Mockingbird too, says Brianna, and Lord of the Flies, The Great Gatsby, and Of Mice and Men. We read all of those. Same thing. I think it was just standard school curriculum to read those books. And To Kill a Mockingbird has stuck with me for years. That, I think, was a masterful book. And I read that not long ago. Well, a couple of years ago, I read that to my kids. It's an excellent book. Lord of the Flies is a good book. The imagery from the old 60s movie sticks in my head. I never saw the remake of that movie that came out. God, it's got to be 10 years ago now. They did a remake of Lord of the Flies. I didn't see that one. No, we didn't read transgender books in kindergarten either, Ray Hobbs. You're right. As close as we got in kindergarten was Where the Wild Things Are by Maurice Sendak. I remember I loved that book. I took it out from the library all the time as a kindergartner. So that's right, Race. We never read transgender books in kindergarten. At least not back when I was a kid. So that's funny to me, Maybe I saw a meme on this out there. Yeah, Dick, Jane, and Sally. That was about it. See, Dick has an apple. So, see Jane run for Dick's apple. Oh, it could get so bad from there. We could make some horrendous fun of that. But when I was what was I thinking of here? I lost my train of thought on it now. But it was some memes I saw. It's interesting how we don't think that our 18 to 21-year-olds are old enough to handle guns. But we think 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds in kindergarten, first and second grade are old enough to make decisions about their sexuality. That tells you the kind of society we live in. That's disturbing. That's the one my kids are growing up in, indoctrinated into at school. Now, we're probably a little more fortunate out here in Somerset. We're not in the inner city schools in the big cities of St. Paul, Minneapolis. Yeah, the teachers had paddles. Ain't that the truth, Race? When I was a kid, I got paddled in school as late as 5th grade, which would have made me, in the 5th grade, I had turned 10. Let's see, November, I turned 10 in the 5th grade because I turned 11 in the 6th grade. That's right. So I was 10 years old in the 5th grade. Same age as my daughter, Rowan. And I got in trouble at school. I think I may have told this story to you all a long time ago. But there was a very large kid in our class. He was fat, but he was also very tall. He was a huge man. I'd be very curious to see how he turned out as an adult. Probably a big lumberjacky type of guy. But because he was fat, his name was Jim, and we used to call him Jimbo or Jumbo because he's fat. That's how cruel kids are. And I remember we were all at lunch, eating hot lunch one day in the cafeteria. And one of the things we got that day in our trays was peas, green peas. And none of us liked the peas. We're all kind of throwing them at each other across the table when the lunch lady wasn't looking. And Jim, when he would lean forward to take a bite, his butt was like a beach ball and would roll up off of his chair. So my friend Todd and I, who's on the other side of Jim, what did we do? When we saw that butt roll up, we thought, what a perfect place to throw peas. We were like, bing! We'd throw a pea, and then he'd sit back and he'd chew. Then he'd lean forward for another bite, and that pea was squashed onto the chair. Yeah, like Piggy in Lord of the Flies, except Jim was much bigger. It seems in my memory, he was a foot taller than any of us. But so after about a dozen peas, he started realizing he could feel the moisture of the crushed peas coming through the seat of his pants. And he was wearing like khakis or something, is what I remember, the color khaki. And let's see, when I was in 5th grade, this would have been 1970 or 71. So we got in trouble. Once he realized it, he was like, he lost control. He was like, no, in slow-mo. And he started beating us up, Todd and me, two little flailing kids to the giant, because he was a giant. He was a giant kid. He always talked and moved in slow-mo. I'm going to kill you. And so he proceeded to do that. And the lunch lady came over, and we all three got in trouble for fighting at the table. And we're like, look what you did, Jim. If you'd have just, bucked up and taken the crushed peas on your butt, we wouldn't be in trouble. You had to get mad at us, didn't you? Well, we all got in trouble. And, but what leads kids to be that way? Why did we want to belittle him because of his size? Why did we feel we could pick on him? Most of us knew Jim could beat the crap out of us. Why did we even run the risk? Because there were two of us. We were a tribe. And I wasn't a mean kid. I didn't like to do mean things to people. Why do that? I remember we had a king of the bus stop by my house, the opposite corner from my house. We lived on a corner house, and you know how you got a long city block and then the side street, which is, like 2 houses deep, whereas the long street is about 13 houses deep. So we were on the corner, and the bus stop was the next corner up. So it was kitty corner from our house, but the width of the side street, the length of the side street away. So it wasn't like in front of my house. It was down there. And we had, the boys all had to, there's one boy in particular that we saw as the king of the bus stop because he was a tough kid. And, but he was a nice guy. He liked me. And, but he was king of the bus stop because he could beat up anybody there. And he ran unchallenged for a long time. And then he said I had to fight Billy Furman so I could become the king of the bus stop. Oh, I think he was kind of like the king maker. He would be like the William Wallace because he wasn't the king of the bus stop, but nobody fought him. But Billy Furman, I had to beat him so I could become king of the bus stop. I don't know how the succession actually worked back then, but there it was. So we arranged a fight in my backyard or side yard. We had the corner lot. And Billy Furman came over and we were fighting each other. We were going to fight. And I remember he was wearing a navy blue Minnesota Twins jacket. And he had a little tiny rip in the sleeve, right about there. Just a little hole. Well, as we're fighting, I shoved my finger in that hole and I started ripping apart the sleeve of his jacket. And lightweight jacket. I remember it had a lining to it, but those little lightweight sports jackets. Hey, you're ripping my jacket. And that's actually how I won the fight. I ripped his jacket to shreds. And he ran off kind of crying. And I was victorious. I'm like, I am the king of the bus stop. And the kingmaker was like, well, now all I have to do is really beat me, and then you'd really be the king of the bus stop. And I said, well, I don't really need to do that, do I? But I was very proud of the fact that I won a fight with Billy Furman by tearing his jacket to shreds. And when you look back on that as an adult, you go, what was efficacious about that? Billy Furman never threatened me. He never did anything wrong to me. We all used to kind of mock and tease him. He was a tall, skinny kid, kind of geeky. But I wasn't one of those kids that did that kind of shit. I didn't like it. I didn't like it when it was done to me. So why that way as kids? What was programmed into us to enact Lord of the Flies at the bus stop? Why did we have to tribalize ourselves? Why did we have to come, who is the king and who is the conqueror, who is the victor? Why did we have to grow up learning that we had to, as kids, become violent people in order to not be picked on? We had to establish our strength. We had to show who we were. Don't like that, but there it is. Anyway, all of this came off of talking about, hey, Jeremy Hansen. Thought I saw your name over there out of the corner of my eye. Great to have you. Thanks for stopping by. And June Shasta. You are the great Cornholio, she says. I am the great Cornholio. What was that, Rainey?
Do you need TP for your bunghole?
Do you need TP for your bunghole? That's right.
She said that to Damon yesterday, and Damon said something back.
Damon was standing outside with the shirt up over his head like that.
Nice.
And I am the great Cornholio, and I need TP. Right? I'm the great Cornholio, and I yelled, do you need TP for your bunghole? And he started laughing.
Nice. And one of Flynn's friends, 12-year-old kid, had his shirt up over his head like that. I'm the great Cornholio. And Rainey yelled, do you need TP for your bunghole? So, nice. Niall never got bullied in school, not even close. The reason is clear to me now. I just was unafraid. I did not even realize I was unafraid, but the ripples from that prevented any confrontation. Well, there it is. The older I got, I didn't get picked on. Not because people knew me as a fighter, but people thought I gave off the air, probably like you did, Niall. I gave off an air that, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and try to fight me. See what happens. I've never really had to say those words, but I gave off a certain air after a while. And maybe that's what I learned as a kid in the 4th and 5th and 6th grade, fighting and learning to fight and being picked on and bullied up until the 9th grade. I think the 9th grade was the last time I was ever bullied. I started giving off the air of bully me and you'll see what happens to you. Although I had no clue at that time what I should do. I wasn't a fighter. But I gave off the impression that I was, because I developed, probably like you're talking about, Niall, you develop an air of confidence. Now, why do we need that? Here's the big question. What is it about our Hi, Ro, by the way, you were standing back there and I was talking. And I didn't say hi. What is it about human nature that we need to establish our confidence so we're not picked on by someone else in life? Take it up into your 30s and 40s. Where can you get picked on in life? Do you get picked on, is it just at the bar? Who cares? Is it in work? Is it our primordial nature that comes in? Survival instinct, says Michelle Cannon-Free. Yeah, exactly. Brianna's going to go to bed. Good night, Brianna. Glad you're here. Race Hobbs says it's the natural order of things. It's found throughout all primates. Well, exactly. Excuse me. It's the way things are. Here's my naughty child. Hi, naughty child. How you doing?
I'm not naughty. I'm just misunderstood.
I'm not naughty. I'm just misunderstood. I'm not bad. I'm just painted that way. Jessica Rabbit said that.
My hair's being weird.
I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
Why is my hair doing this?
Let's see. Hold on. I don't know. Dominance hierarchies, like in a troop of baboons. Yeah, there it is. Iowa X race in Iowa. Yeah, exactly. And so you've got to put that out there. I was always a kid that tried to incorporate words over fists. And I would try to talk my way through things.
I fight my
I
way
felt
through
I needed to
things.
be an intellectual, so I wouldn't, although I didn't define it by those terms. What did you say, Rainey?
Now you talk so much, people just walk away.
Yeah.
No,
That's Rainey said. That's how I get out of fights. I just talk too much so people walk away.
No, you.
I
Throw,
bore them to death.
No, you throw the first punch.
I do throw the first punch.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
I know you did. Why? Ray said I made people laugh. Yeah, that's a way to do it too. I was in jail once. And the way I probably got out of getting the shit beat out of me was because I made everybody laugh around me, Race. That's just a tactic. I didn't establish dominance. I established an air of confidence through comedy.
You went to jail once?
Yeah, I did.
When?
Long time ago.
Why?
Because I got arrested.
For doing what?
Traffic violation.
What does that mean?
Means I violated traffic law.
What does that mean?
What's traffic?
Trafficking dead bodies.
Like a
I was
like
trafficking
like-
dead bodies,
like-
Rainey said.
like a sex trafficker?
No, not a sex trafficker.
Politician.
Jesus. I didn't even know what that was when I was 10.
Now it's all over the goddamn TV.
Yeah.
I know. It's on the TV and the internet every day. So, but yeah, I was in a holding cell. And it was with all these guys. They were all bragging about their crimes they had committed. And I'd been pulled over because my tabs were expired. And the state trooper who saw me sitting at an intersection at a stoplight ran my plates and found that I had an old unpaid parking ticket. that was 8 years old, I think, at that time. And so I got I got pulled over and hauled off to jail. And my car towed. And it ended up being $137 debt. I happened to have at the time almost $700 in my pocket. Uncle Dave was there, and he said, "Why don't you let me take the money and stuff?" And I go, "No, I'm going to use it. I'll just pay my fine when I get there." The cop was at least nice enough to let me do that. My kids were in the car with me too. Abby and Bryn were with me in the car, and they were all upset. They were like, 11, 12 years old at the time.
56.
So they were upset. So the cop let me actually drive them home because it was only 2 blocks from home. Oh, no, wait, at that time he didn't tow my car. So he let me drive my kids home and drop my car off, and then he had to arrest me and take me into jail. A state trooper in Minnesota.
Oh,
That's really weird when you think about that. He actually allowed me to get back behind the wheel and drive my car home, and he followed me for 2 blocks. And then Dave happened to be at the house. That's what it was. And he stayed with my kids. Do I know why what?
Because you cast your hands and hope to die.
I see. You just picked that up from somewhere. I don't know what that's about, what the context is. But so I got hauled off to jail.
Oh.
And I was in jail for like 21 hours because I got there. They confiscated my money and everything in my pocket and said I couldn't use my own money. Somebody had to come down and bail me out. I said, "Are you kidding me? It's a traffic violation. It's the way the code works."
Why can't you bail yourself out?
You're not allowed to for some reason.
And cut a hole in the wall and jump out.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was planning. To cut a hole in the wall and jump out. So I'm in the jail cell with all these guys, a holding cell. And they're all badass. And they're all talking about what they did. And I popped this guy and I did that. And one guy say, you know, he was talking about drugs. And I popped this guy in the head. You know, and that's why I'm in here. And blah, blah, blah. And they're all just showing off to each other. They're probably all, you know, he probably stole a Snickers bar and got caught.
Snickers.
But so they came around to me, Race, and they said, "What you in for?" The guy said to me. And I happened to be dressed in suit and tie.
Why?
Because the first guy that talked to me, when he shuffles into the cell, and I'm standing there with my hands in my pockets, and I still got my tie on and all that. They didn't put me in anything special. I was in a holding cell. And "What you in for?" He says, no. The first guy was like, "You my lawyer?" I go, "Dude, I'm in here with you. What makes you think I'm your lawyer?" Because I was wearing a suit and tie. The other guy, when he comes up and he says, "What you in for?" And I said, and these were all these guys talking about their guns and stuff like that. And I said, "Traffic violation." And they go, "What?" I said, "In my weapon of choice," I said, 1999 Ford Escort EXP.
Why do you keep
And I got them laughing. So they laughed at that. And I ended up telling them stories to use my time up because they were making me sit in this holding tank. They made me sit there for 21 hours before they let me out, even though somebody came and I had money to pay my bail. They wouldn't let me pay my own bail, which was just paying off the ticket. Somebody had to come down. Somebody came down within an hour, paid my bail. I think it was Dave Potter. And but I still had to sit in there another 19 plus hours until they released me. So part of finding a way to spend the time was telling stories. I did comedy routines. I told stories. I talked about history at the time. I hadn't written any of my books yet at that point. This would have been 2004 was the year that this happened. This is the year before I met Rainey. And so I was there. That's how I handled my jail time. But back to why we are all tribal, why we all do the things we do. What an interesting psychological study that is, to find out why people do the things we do.
I have a question, Dad.
Ask me.
Why do you keep holding a pencil?
I don't know. Why do you keep holding that piece of paper in your hand?
Just isn't a piece of paper. It's
Whatever
a
it is.
nail filer.
Why are you holding it in your hand?
Because I'm filing my nails.
No, you're not. You're just standing there holding it.
I'm putting on nails like this long tomorrow. I bought them. Here, let me show you.
No, you're actually not. So, anyway, me with pencil in hand. I had a red sports car, says Iowa X, for a few years. The troopers were almost breaking their necks when I drove by, but they never got anything on me.
That's my nail.
Yeah, no, we're not doing long, stupid nails.
You don't even know what they're for. So, Dad, they go on like that.
I do know what they're for. I've watched women wearing nails like that
no.
trying to type.
No, you don't get what this kind is. They go on like that.
Yeah, when you wipe your butt, you get poop on them.
They go on the tip of your nail, and then you trim them down.
Yeah,
They're supposed to be like French tips.
What do you
Not
mean
even
false nails for at 10 years old?
Yeah.
You know, it's going to degrade the tissue underneath your nails.
I need my nails.
You're going to get gangrene in your fingers, and pretty soon you won't have any hands. Yep, you scratch your butthole, it'll fall off. So says Rainey.
Well, that doesn't matter.
So, it doesn't matter. It's beauty. It's what I do. It's okay because it won't happen for a long time yet.
I don't even poop, so yeah.
The nail bed will slowly die, says Field Guy.
Yeah, Dad. Girls only poop rainbows and cotton candy.
Oh, is that what cotton candy and rainbows smell like?
Yeah.
Whenever you're in the bathroom.
Like shit.
Rainy. It smells like shit. So,
Are you going to bed? Okay, I'm going to bed. Good night.
I hear the local jail has some real good card games. And we'll stick with the poker room at the casino. Thank you very much, says Iowa X. Well, come and say goodnight, Ma. Oh, thank you. Now that the battery's completely dead. All right. There's the Rainy. There she is. Good night.
Good night. I got a headache. I'm going to bed.
All right.
Let me kiss you.
Good night. See you later. All right. All right. There was the Rainy for a quickie on the show. So, I don't know. We're not drawing any conclusions. Maybe I've rabbit trailed off the topic too much. That my getting angry at my daughter during the show actually changed the whole course of my evening, my mood for the evening and everything. Because it was once again, as we were talking about at the beginning, I don't know if Leslie, you're still here and some of the people that were talking at the beginning about this, but being a parent, it pissed me off that once again my child was violating something that I had asked them to do every day, almost, especially when I'm on the radio. And, you know, I don't have a separate studio here. I don't own this house. So I can't build out a studio. It's in the corner of the big studio downstairs. So I don't have a sound studio down here. So everybody's just like, hey, for the 55 minutes that Dad's on radio, 52 minutes every night, could we be quiet down here and go do something? It's a big house. Go to another part of the house.
You want a professional radio gig? When it makes you money, we will shut the hell up.
What do you...
When it's a paid gig, I will keep the kids.
What are you insulting me for?
I'm not insulting. It's not an insult. I'm just saying. When
So-
it makes money to pay the bills.
Well, yeah, but that's not what I'm talking about.
I'll gladly keep the turd monkeys away.
So when the radio show makes money, Rainey will make sure that the kids stay out of the way. There you go. Because in the meantime, when it doesn't make money, she doesn't have to do that.
I only work for money, so
Mhm. I'll remember that next time I get asked to do something. So I only work for money too from now on, Rainey. So a great smart dad, fun smart dad. Well, thank you. Sometimes I'm not very fun. Sometimes I'm just crotchety about certain things because I get fed up with stuff a lot easier these days. I don't know why that is. Is it age? Is it patience? You know, it's like and I've mentioned this many times before because it's a great line. The pre-scandal ridden Bill Cosby in his comedy days said, when you become a parent of children and they start growing into their teens and so on, he said, you're no longer, when you're a parent, he says, you're no longer concerned with justice. You're concerned with what makes quiet. And that's almost the truth. The truth. So, no, Iowa X, 10 is not even a tween yet. She's not even in junior high. She's in 4th grade. She's coming out of 4th grade. And she's already getting boobs and hair in her pits and stuff like that. And it's like my kid is starting puberty at age 10. And good night, Rainey, says Barbie D. Rainey's already gone from the room. So I'm gruff when necessary. Maybe I'm just an ass. I've turned into an ass in my old age. So there's certain things I expect of my kids is part of it. I expect my kids to be certain ways and to act certain ways. And I expect my kids to do what they're asked to do. It's like, why am I asking you to do this a third time? Didn't I ask you to do this yesterday? And you still have not done it. I don't have time to monitor your ass and follow you around. If I tell you, I need you to get this thing done because I'm busy. So's your mom. We're busy making life work. So you go do your thing that we told you to do. And that's it. I expect it to be done. If I come back the next day and it's not done, I go, why didn't that thing get done that you were asked to do yesterday? Why am I just seeing this now that you didn't take care of it? I actually had my son gave me the answer one day. I didn't want to. And I'm like, what? What did you just say? I didn't want to. I'm like, you didn't want to? Why didn't you tell me that the moment I gave you the task to do? Why did you wait till a day later when you didn't do it to tell me, well, I didn't want to do it? Why didn't you just tell me to my face when I said, hey, son, I need you to get that thing done? And I said, I think now you'll be getting it done right now. Well, I don't want to do it. I said, I don't care. I said, I didn't ask you if you wanted to do it. This is something like, pick up your bathroom, or, hey, it's your job to wash the dishes. Get the dishes done. Or sweep the floor, whatever. Guys, we all grew up with it. Chores, just regular old daily household chores. Get your chore done. Why do I even have to ask you? When I was a kid, we were told what we were supposed to do. My mom was a single mom. She went to work at 3 p.m, worked as a waitress. She had 3 kids at home. You know what? We had chores to do. If we didn't do them, we get woken up. When you got home from work at midnight or whatever it was.
Hey, Dad.
Yeah.
So in your next life, you know what your name's gonna be?
No.
Your first name is going to be Mike, and your last name is going to be Oxlong.
No, we don't talk that way. Did
Well,
Mom tell you that?
No.
Where did you hear that?
She told it to me earlier.
That is inappropriate. That's inappropriate to do when I'm doing a radio with people. It's not funny. And it's not appropriate. You're 10, not 30. I have to have a talk with Rainey about that. So, that's my 10-year-old. So, when they pull this bullshit, when I'm sitting here. Now, I could end this any moment. I could go, folks, I'm done. I got to go take care of this. But that's what I get forced into as a parent. It's like, at what point do I need to stop doing what I'm doing because you're misbehaving or doing something you're not supposed to do? So I got to stop what the hell I'm doing to address the issue with you. Do you not get it? Are you not smarter than that? I would ask my kids. Do you not have brains enough to figure that one out? I don't do this at this point in the day because Dad's on the radio. Or, the obvious is I do this now because I know you're on the radio and you can't do anything about it right now. Why the hell do kids do that? I know kids like to get away with things, but kids seek negative attention as much as possible, as much as the positive. Yeah, you're right, June. They do. This one is the attention seeker. Always doing stuff. Always talking. Talks a mile a minute. She puts me to shame. Always something. So I'm going to have to go deal with that. And then it's, what do you do? Do you take off a digit? All right. Another digit gone. Pretty soon you're not going to have a hand. And she's in there. She's in the bathroom right now singing. So, oblivious. Knowing that she just pulled attention by doing something kind of dumb. And it's not that my kids don't get attention or get my attention. Get it all the time. Why don't you go tell Mom that you tried to tell me that joke on air? So I will go deal with that in a few minutes when we're done here. Time for a come to Jesus meeting. Yeah. Yeah, Iowa X. Don't even talk that way. Yeah. And that's why sometimes I lose my cool. Cool, man. Just play it cool, boy, real cool. Got a rocket in your pocket. Stay off the juice, boy. Go, man, go. But not like a yo-yo, cool boy. Just play it cool, boy, real cool. Yeah, what would Atticus Finch do? Well, Scout. Why do we forever have Gregory Peck in our minds as Atticus Finch? Because he did such a good job portraying him. So, no call-ins? I hadn't put out call for call-ins. So, I'm not going to go very much longer tonight anyways. It's a little too late. So, to put out the call for calls. We'll do call-ins tomorrow. My older twin daughters will be here tomorrow. And they should be here roughly about 9:30 to 10 o'clock tomorrow night.
Do you love Abby and Bryn more than me?
Yes, I certainly do. Of course I do. I love almost everybody more than you.
Don't touch me. Leave me alone. Stay
What
away
a
from me.
dumb thing to ask me.
Why?
That was dumb. So,
Why? Because it's true.
maybe. So, I love you.
No, you don't.
I love you, kind of. So,
You're lucky I didn't just spray you with a woman's perfume in your eyeballs.
yeah, I sure am lucky. That would be lucky me that you didn't spray me in the eyes with women's perfume. Imagine my good luck at having that not happen. Imagine your good luck for having not even thought about it with any reality. So,
I'm gonna stay up as late as I have to until Abby and Bring get here tomorrow. Like, I don't care. If
well,
I
they
have
should
to
already,
stay
if
up.
this were tomorrow night, they'd already have been here maybe an hour. So their plane lands at 8:30. So they ought to be here by 9:30-ish. 9:45 at the latest. Are you going to get her a new Mustang for her Sweet 16?
Me?
Let me think about that for a
Who?
second. No.
Who?
You.
I'll whip it around a corner, slam it into a wall.
Oh, yeah. That's why no. No. She'll get like a 1984, I don't know, Oldsmobile Sierra.
Grandma was gonna let me drive her truck, but then it wasn't working, so I didn't get to drive it. I only got to drive her tractor.
Well, the John Deere lawnmower? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was there, remember?
No, I don't.
So,
Yes, I do.
no, she won't be getting a new Mustang when she's 16.
Why?
They're too expensive. The insurance on it would be through the ceiling because you're only 16.
Just take your credit card and buy one then.
There's the solution. It'll cost a lot less if I use my credit card, right? So, an old Honda Civic, there it is. Or an old Subaru, even.
No,
The Subarus are supposed to be safely built cars.
no. You're gonna get me a
So-
Lamborghini or a car with those butterfly doors,
Yeah, there it is.
and it's gonna be pink. No,
There it
not
is.
pink. It's gonna be black
Black Lamborghini. Got it.
or whatever those cars are with those butterfly wings that instead of coming out like this, they go up.
Well, Teslas do that. Certain models.
Then you're gonna get me a Tesla.
Maybe. So, a Vespa, says June Shasta.
A dirt bike.
Dirt bike, I don't know.
Just give me a dirt bike for next year. I already know how to drive it. I already know how to start it. I already know how to get the gas. Just you got to give me your credit card.
I see. I'll check it out.
Or we can just go buy lawnmower gas.
A Geo Metro. There it is, Durwood. A Geo Metro.
No, a dirt bike.
Yeah, Geo Metro.
Dirt
Are
bike.
those electric cars? She can plug it in. Oh, did you forget to plug it in last night? Oh, I guess you're walking.
I forgot to plug in everything. I forgot to plug in my phone
A stick shift. Yep.
last night, so it was at 2% this morning, and then I ran it out by trying to watch a TikTok video. So I should probably plug it in, but I'm not going to because I'm too lazy to.
There's that. There is that.
Dad, we have matching phones. Let me show you.
All right.
My phone.
Now you go. Do you remember the AMCs? What were they? The AMC something with the. They looked like round. Yeah, good. Now we'll mess our phones up.
My phone case broke. This is his phone. This is my phone.
There it is. They're almost alike. Yours has a big hole in the middle. Mine doesn't.
It's got a butt.
There it is.
How do you
All
think
right.
the battery comes out?
I don't know. How does the battery come out? I've never considered it on that phone.
Zoop.
Haven't needed to. So, Niall Parkinson, good night. Check back
Okay,
again.
good night.
Good night. Okay, good night. I love you.
Yeah, I'm leaving now.
All right. Bye.
Goodbye, phone.
All right. Well, folks, a Maverick, not a Maverick. The AMC, not a Gremlin. What am I thinking of? Remember those AMC cars? They were kind of like round glass hatchbacks on them, small cars. It was like a bubble, it almost looked like. A bubble with a nose on the front. AMC something. Came out in the 70s. I think it was the 70s. Let's see. I wonder if I can just put an AMC. What we're going to get here. They did have some cool cars. Some of the older ones. This rare AMC car is worth $1 million. It looks like Corvette-ish in nature. What kind is it? A mid-engine two-seater AMX3 was the ultimate product of the push to reverse AMC's staid image, an effort that also saw the introduction of the Javelin and the AMX. I think this might be a Javelin. I almost bought one of those. Maybe it was the Gremlin, the AMX, the AMC Gremlin, and the Pacer. Do you remember those? AMC, maybe it was the Gremlin that I'm thinking of. No, that's not quite it. And the AMC Pacer. Might have been the Pacer. All right, here. I'm gonna have to share my screen with you, so y'all can, who are left over here, can see this. Let's see. The Pacer had the bubble windows. Yeah. June. Here, share screen. Boom. Boom. All right. Here we go. Here is the AMC Pacer. That's what that looked like. No, agree to what? No, I don't agree to anything with that, because he'll start getting emails every 5 minutes from them. There's the AMC Pacer. Let's open up the image so you can see this. Open image, a new tab. Boom. That's the AMC Pacer. And I don't know what year that one is. That's got to be... Well, it's going up for auction for $30,000. How about that? But the front ends looked like this. So there you go. I remember these. The AMC Pacer right there. It was the Pacer. That car has to be, that's a 75 right there. That's a 75 Pacer. So I don't know that everybody's intrigued with talking about cars, but on the show, here's what they looked like. You know, just the profile of the car looked like that. Yep, 75. So that would have been the year I was in 75. I graduated 78, so I was 10th grade? 9th and 10th grade years. Touched on 1975. So there's the Pacer. But then you also had the AMC Gremlin. This was the Gremlin. Such an amazing car. Let's see. The quintessential Gremlin without the wild paint job on it. Looked like, or wild color. The Gremlin kind of had this kind of a look right here. Let's open that up in a new tab. Boom. There's the Gremlin, which kind of had the same basic look as a Pacer, but it was different. The Gremlin was more, you know, kind of this weird little boxy car. I guess any one of these would probably, there's the profile of it. And this is 1973. Where'd it go? That there. Right there. Oh, too small. But you get the idea. That was the 1973 Gremlin. But the first one I called up was this guy right here. Look at this thing. This is the Open the image in a new tab. Let's see if it's a little bigger so we can actually look at it. That's the 1969 AMC. I think that's a Javelin. Can you see that? That's pretty cool. It sells for almost $1 million right now. It's such a rare car for AMC. So there you go. There's some of the cars that were around when I grew up. The car I had, I'm going to show you this. My first car in roughly 1980, I was in college when I got my first car. It was a 1968 Buick Electra. It was green. It was like that metallic green. Oh, look at that. That's almost the same color of it right there. So this was the first car I had. It was not a convertible, but I had the Buick Electra. It looked just like this, frankly. That would be my very first car. Let's open this up in a new tab and see if it's big enough to look at. It's really not. Let's bring it into Photoshop and see if it's big enough to look at. Here we go. Let's throw that up. So the first car I owned was a 1968 Buick Electra. It looked like that. It had the faux convertible top on it, and it was green. It was this color green. I could fit 13 kids in that car. And when you open up the front hood of this car, you get probably a dozen guys sitting inside on the edges, drinking beer, working on the engine. There was that much room in it. In the trunk, you could hide at least 6 bodies in the trunk. I wish I had this car today. That was my first car, folks, right there. And it looked just like that. Only mine had a few more dings on it. Stop sharing our screen. So there you go. Michelle's Cannon Free's sister had a Gremlin. Yeah, those are great. Delta 88, yeah. Those were great cars too in the day. I think I had an Oldsmobile Delta 88, yeah. It was brown. That was my second car. So, Oldsmobile Delta 88. And that was a couple of years later. I don't know whatever happened to my Electra. I don't remember even selling it. I don't know what happened to it. It just disappeared one day. In my memory, anyway. All right, folks. Yeah, the white walls. Those were nice, aren't they, June? So, anyway, we're going to call it quits for tonight. It's about 11 o'clock here. So 10 o'clock if you're out east. And other times in other places. If you're in Great Britain, what time would it be right now? 5 in the morning? 4 in the morning? Something like that. So, your parents all had Fords, says Barbie D. Yeah, my mom had something that was like a Bel Air, although it wasn't a Bel Air. Name cars that looked like the Bel Airs, you guys that know cars. That's the kind of car my mom had when we were first, she was divorced from my stepdad when I was 6, and that's the kind of car she had. And that would have been in 1966, 67. So she had something from the late 50s that looked like, now if I look at a Bel Air, that's kind of white, creamy white and turquoise color. That's the kind of car she had. But it was a shit car back then, in 1966. Oh, you got an old Bel Air? They weren't classics back then. So I can't think of what she had. I'd have to look it up. But it's from the late 50s or something. Something like that. A used car. All right, guys. I'm going to wrap it up. I'm glad you came in. Thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging with me in the captain's cabin tonight. And my nose itches tonight. What is with that? They say if your nose itches, somebody's thinking about you. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's my wife, and they're waiting for me to get off the radio. Hey, how about that? All right. So let's get out of here. I will see you again tomorrow night. Thanks for your time. Thanks for coming here and just wanting to hang out with me. So you know what? You live long and prosper. And I'll see you tomorrow night.